Hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast live from Wimbledon on day 3 of the championships, where the drama keeps coming, the seeds keep falling, and Taylor Fritz continues to keep us up well past our bedtimes. Here is your update, folks. After yesterday losing Coco Gauff, Jessica Pegula and Alexander Zverev, among many, many others, today the fallen include Frances Tiafoe, the 12th seed, Jiri Lehecka, the 23rd seed, that's on the men's side. On the women's side, Jasmine Palini, the 4th seed, Diana Schneider, the 12th seed, Beatrice Haddad-Maia, the 21st seed, Donna Vekic, the 22nd seed, Leylah Fernandez, the 29th seed, Aisling Kruger, the 31st seed. It is a graveyard. Today was probably not quite as dramatic as the very high bar set on days 1 and 2, but it has definitely been the continuation of a theme, the theme being utter decimation for seeded players, utter chaos. It's become particularly exaggerated on the women's side today. In fact, we now only have one top five seed remaining in the women's. And Matt, I'm going to guess you have the stat on when that last happened at this stage of a slam.
Yeah, there's only been one other slam in the Open era where you've only had one of the women's top 5 seeds into the third round. And it actually wasn't that long ago. It was Wimbledon 2018. But it is an extraordinary tournament. You know, it only happened twice in the Open era. And I think today, as you said, not as dramatic, but when you've already lost so many seeds, when you lose just a few more, it feels like the impact's really big as well. And yeah, this draw is wide open. It really, really is. Especially, you know, we've obviously still got the world number 1 in the women's draw, and I think she was probably most people's favourite before the tournament, but she's actually in a section of the draw which is holding up a little bit more. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
We could be in for an interesting middle period of this tournament, because there's every chance we still end up with the sort of finals, or maybe even semi-finals as well, that lots of people would have been predicting coming in. David, we've still got Alcaraz, we've still got Sinner, we've still got Djokovic. Taylor Fritz has hung on tonight. Sabalenka is there. Iga Swiatek is there. But this middle period is going to be pretty wild, I think.
Yeah, it could be a bit of a lull for the very top seeds. I think we might see Fritz settle down now. We might see Sabalenka roll. I mean, actually, her draw is still interesting. But Alcaraz and Sinner might just cruise to the latter stages with Djokovic. But the kind of process of the others working out who's going to benefit from this situation, who's got it? Who's got both the skill and, I guess, the nerve under pressure, and seizes the moment? I mean, somebody's getting an opportunity here in both draws. You know, maybe more
about
than
40 people are getting an opportunity in each draw.
But somebody's going to take it. Somebody's going to take a quarter-final spot that at the start of the tournament we would have thought would have sounded ridiculous, and that's really fun and interesting in its own way. I mean, I've watched a few players today that I've ended up reading up about in a way that I haven't before, and I've enjoyed finding out about them. So, you know, it is what you do get when you get a couple of days like this, is the tournament just starts with a bang. Everybody's buzzing. Every Grand Slam is fun in that there's a land of possibility, but because of the way the first 2 days have gone, you're just waiting for the next thing. You're on tenterhooks all the time, and yet there's still the potential for all the big names to clash late on, which is cool.
And I think the seeds that have survived, and particularly those that have come through tight ones, like Taylor Fritz, like Madison Keys, who had that incredibly tight one in the first round, I feel like they will be kind of extra hardened and extra boldened, like players that save match point in early rounds and go on to win the title. I feel like they've got a bit of that going on with them. Like, it could have been me, but it wasn't. And now I'm playing with house money.
Yeah, because I really do buy into David's theory about it being contagious and there being a kind of snowball effect and a kind of feeling in the air. And if you're managing to dodge that, you kind of think, well, okay, I'm gonna keep dodging it. And you've been through a tough experience. You're kind of battle hardened. Look, it's kind of uncharted territory. I feel like we haven't had a slam like this. Certainly, I feel like in quite a while, and obviously there's that one in Wimbledon 2018, but on the men's side, the draw then really sort of stood up. We had a Novak Djokovic against Rafa Nadal in the semis that year, and look, as you said, the men's seeds, the 4 biggest names are still in the men's draw, so it is a different picture there. But I must say, I'm having a lot of fun.
Me too.
For now, it's super
for now.
fun.
Ask me in a few days. We're like, where have all those players gone?
Yeah, let's ride the wave. Let's start actually with Jasmine Palini, because although seeing a sad Jasmine Palini is not a lot of fun, not at all, I think her loss today and her comments after the loss really do back up that theory, because she didn't use this language, but she was spooked. She was spooked by all the seeds going out. She said it was on her mind.
Wow.
She said that the issue today, not the entire issue, she gave a lot of credit to her opponent, Kamila Rakimova, who beat her 4-6, 6-4, 6-4, but she talked a lot about focus. I kept on losing focus in this match, particularly, she said, in that second set. It felt like, it was tight all the way, but there were moments in that second set where it felt like, okay, she's got it now. A bit like her first round match where she was in trouble, but she steadied the ship. But then she'd lose it and get frustrated, and the threads would start to unravel, and she looked frayed. And we just haven't been used to seeing that from Jasmine Palini. She does look, I'm loath to say jaded, because I don't think objectively she's jaded sort of by tennis's standards where everybody's a bit jaded. She's still Jasmine Palini. She still has a sheen that most other players would kill for, but by her standard she seems a bit jaded. I think the vibe isn't quite there. I mean, obviously not today because she's lost, but generally I think in this period the vibe is dimmed a bit.
Yeah. And look, I think Rome was such a high point, such a crescendo. It was such an extraordinary thing that she did there, winning the singles and the doubles in her home tournament. For Jasmine Palini, trying to find a way in 2025 to match or come close to or better what she did last year was always going to be incredibly difficult. It was extraordinary for a reason, reaching back-to-back Grand Slam finals, because it was so beyond anything she'd ever done before. And I think in the big picture, I think she's backing it up really well. She's remained a factor at the top of the sport in a way that, before last year she wasn't. And that moment for her was Rome. She had a fantastic tournament there, and I think she looked a little bit tired to me at the French Open in that loss to Svitolina. I think she sort of faded a little bit in that match as well. And getting on the grass, trying to back up Wimbledon, it just feels like it's just caught up with her a little bit, I think. She's obviously been through a coaching change as well. And today it looked like in the third set, which is when I joined this match because there was so much going on, I didn't actually get eyes on it until the end, but it looked like she was thinking about the second set in the third set. She was thinking about the sort of chances that had got away, the points that she wishes she could have played better. And I think if she was fresher, she'd have been able to put that second set behind her a little bit more, but it just seemed to be affecting her. Her body language was quite sort of negative, and she was playing someone in Rakimova who was just growing in confidence and going after the ball. And if Palini was sort of going down in confidence, Rakimova was just going up and up. And it was a crazy, very dramatic final game with Rakimova having triple match point, losing all of them, and it feeling like maybe Palini could still get back into it, but she held her nerve, Rakimova, and she's knocked out last year's finalist.
And maybe we should have seen this danger coming a little bit more, not only because Jasmine Palini's a seed and that equals danger, but also because of Kamila Rakimova, who she's world she's world number 80 at the moment, career high of 60. None of that screams alarm bells, but she qualified and reached the quarters in Eastbourne. That's 4 match wins in a row there last week, and actually kind of winning 4 matches and then losing in the quarters, like giving you time to get to Wimbledon. That's the dream. That's the dream. Maybe sort of Jessica Pegula should forget to enter and play qualies in Eastbourne next year.
I've often thought players should try and figure out a way to play qualies, because I think it'd be good for them to play themselves in.
So yeah, she got wins over Peyton Stearns, Elisabetta Cocciaretto, Bernarda Pera. Like, these are players mostly higher ranked than her. Like, there was some form there. Certainly a massive jump up from the level she's been playing the rest of the year, she was awesome today, and it was one of the biggest moment of her career, I think. And it's tough. It's so tough but it's such an illustration of the brutality of tennis that Rome, in the bigger picture, is seen as a preamble to Roland Garros. That she wasn't able to just for Rome to be it. Enjoy Rome. That's an awesome achievement.
Yeah, I think she did enjoy it though. Like, I don't feel
for about
like
2.5 hours, and then she's in a.
But you're judged then again. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's it.
Externally,
which is what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
I think she's done an amazing thing already by winning Rome, her home tournament. And okay, like, she hasn't backed up what she did at Roland Garros and Wimbledon last year, but I don't think she was ever going to, even without Rome. Like, I just think that was probably her achievement of the year, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
It's a tough sport, isn't it?
Tough sport.
Yeah, it is.
And
she had an amazing Roland Garros in the doubles.
Yes. Did you see Sara Errani, who's, when available, present at all of her, her doubles partner Paolini's singles matches? Did you see Sara Errani and Mark Lopez, Paolini's official coach, having a spat during her first round match?
I saw some stills of this.
Yeah. They look like brother and sister having a right old showdown on the sidelines. It was very amusing. Do you know what I think Jasmine Paolini should do?
Go to Ibiza.
I think she should go to Ibiza. It works. Rakimova now plays Linda Noskova, who beat Eva Lise today. And I just want to circle that name because she's Czech. And the past couple of years, a Czech that nobody saw coming has popped up. Noskova's game suits this surface. There's a bit of the Rabatkinas about Noskova. She's the sort of person that won't worry too much about all this hoo-ha of seeds dropping out. I could see her just weaving her way through this draw.
Until the 4th round.
I know exactly what you're thinking, Matt, because of course Noskova is in Amanda Anisimova's section, and that is going to be a huge roadblock for her because Anisimova once again won in straight sets today, 4-3 over Renata Zarazua. You watched it all, of course.
I did, over on court 12. And look, very different match to Anisimova's first one, obviously, where she was on court for only about 45 minutes and obviously didn't lose a game there. This was a tussle right from the start. She went love 40 down in her opening service game. And Zarazua had a touch of the Tatiana Marias out there today. A lot of slice forehands. She's got way better hands than I realised. Lovely drop shots. Was really catching Anisimova out with those repeatedly. And I felt like Anisimova was a little bit on the edge today in terms of her frustration levels. I think maybe she's aware of the draw that she's got here. Like I said, right when the draw was made, she's got a good draw, and
suddenly people are talking about her, and it's not just you.
And it has opened up even more. This, honestly, I say it all the time. Sometimes players just have a window, a moment. This, to me, feels like that for a deep run here, because I do think she's now the favourite to make the semi-finals. Given her draw,
I kind of think on paper,
I think she is.
That's right.
With her ranking, with her form this year, with the way she's won a ton of matches on the grass already this season, and I think she was aware of that. She was she was exclaiming more than she normally does, like even positively. You know, she was really letting out big roars, and it was like, you know, she was a set and on serve in the second. It wasn't like massively on the edge on the score line, but she seemed a little bit on the edge. I thought, you know, she played well. Look, her serve was a problem. She wasn't serving all that well, quite a lot of double faults, but when she needed to, she focused and she just sort of took over with her power game over Zarazua, but finished with a backhand winner literally right in front of me, which was great.
She did that just for you.
Yeah.
Matt was quoted as people earlier, wasn't he, on BBC Radio? Some people are saying she could win this tournament.
Look, I've been called worse. I've been called a random on the internet, maybe. I'm getting excited and anxious in equal measure.
Do you think she feels the same?
It's like Fulham's FA Cup draw this year. I was like, oh my God, we've only got to beat Crystal Palace to get to Wembley, and then we lost 3-0 at home. Like, feels a bit like that. Dal McGalfy in the third round to get to the second week.
Dal McGalfy is Crystal Palace.
Yep, Dal McGalfy beat Beatrice and Ajmaya today, taking out a seed in straight sets. She took out Harriet Dart in round one. She's taken out a seed today. She's not to be underestimated, although that has already happened.
Matt's already gotten it, so now penciled in.
People think she's winning the tournament. People equals Matt Roberts. Let's talk about Emma Raducanu, shall we? Emma Raducanu beat the 2023 Wimbledon champion today in straight sets on centre court. She beat Vondrousova 6-3, 6-3. It was an absolutely awesome performance from Raducanu. Vondrousova, look, this was not the Vondrousova that won Berlin. It was not the Vondrousova that played in her first round match to beat McCartney Kessler, but that is Marketa Vondrousova. You don't know which one of her is going to show up on any given day, and she has had a lot of injuries recently, and there's even more reason to not feel that she's particularly reliable at the moment. But all of that being said, Raducanu didn't give her an awful lot of chance to show up today. She was that good and that aggressive. It was the kind of step inside the court, take everything early game that won at the US Open in 2021. That is not a prediction, but it's just nice to see her have the confidence to play that brand of tennis again, Matt, and you were watching it on centre court.
I was really impressed with Raducanu today. I think, yes, there was a lot of aggression. You know, when the ball was there, she was going after it, absolutely. The word that really came to mind to me to describe her game was variety. You know, I think she was mixing up her shots, you know, her pace, her height on the ball, her spin, and I think actually, you know, Vondrousova had beaten her earlier in the year, so there's definitely, you know, a world where Vondrousova can beat Raducanu clearly. But actually, I did think if Raducanu's playing well, it's not a bad matchup, because the sorts of players that I really think Raducanu struggles against are when she's really struggling for weight of shot against them. And Vondrousova's not that kind of player. You know, she does have power when she really steps in, but it's not the way she plays. She's crafty, she's clever. And actually, Vondrousova was a little bit off her game, and Raducanu was able to match that court craft herself. You know, she's got lovely hands on the grass. She gets down low to sort of pick up those backhands. She suits the grass. And that combination of variety and attack and just focus. She was so focused in this match, determined to win it in straight sets, I think. No hint of the back struggles that we were so worried about coming into this tournament. So that's a really, really good sign. And I just think when she's not worried about weight of shot, Raducanu can kind of express herself and use the tools in her game, and she looked great out there. I thought she played really, really well. I was impressed. The crowd went with her, which was just fantastic to see. That's, you know, she got that sort of early evening slot on centre court, which is just such a nice time to play. The two matches before had only, you know, been straight sets, so it wasn't really, really late. The roof wasn't on. It was just a nice vibe on centre court, and yeah, she absolutely owned that place today. I thought she was excellent. The problem is the draw's falling apart, and she's in a section where the world number one is right there. You know, like there's definitely a world at this Wimbledon where Raducanu can go on a run. just not sure with this draw that's what it is. But, strange things are happening, to quote Des Lynam from 1995 from our Wimbledon Relived show. So at this Wimbledon, I wouldn't rule anything out.
Yeah, neither would I. Unfortunately for her, Sabalenka is the kind of player that she struggles against with that weight of shot. We've seen it against Zheng Qinwen at Queen's recently. She was excellent in the first round. Raducanu, then she runs into Zheng, who's just hitting the ball too hard for her, quite honestly. We've seen her get really obliterated by Iga Swiatek a couple of times this year. That having been said, I do think Wimbledon brings out the very best in Raducanu. We saw it in her first run in 2021. She reached the fourth round. She got big wins along the way. That was her first real introduction to her. It helped provide the platform for that run at the US Open that won her the title. Last year, I thought she had a couple of really good wins, and honestly, I still believe to this day, had she not had that hoo-ha with Andy Murray and the mixed doubles, I think she beats Lulu's son and carries on in that draw. Lulu's son was very good that day, but even so, that's just what I feel. And I thought mostly, I watched quite a lot of this, albeit not in the stadium. I watched on the screen. I feel like Raducanu outplayed Vondrousova today, and I don't think Vondrousova was terrible at all. I thought she was okay, but I thought Raducanu, I do think you're right about the shape of shot as well works for Raducanu. Lefty forehand into her backhand, and how you haven't got Raducanu on the backhand list anymore is beyond me. So, that's just my little...
Wow, wasn't expecting to have beef with David
well,
tonight.
It was exceptional today, and
all the backhands on my list are exceptional.
Right, fine, okay. And it was aggressive, and I just felt as though she's in a good place. It's just that what do you do when you get the sort of shock and awe of the Sabalenka game against you? Do you have an answer to that? I think she can win it. I think she's the underdog, but I don't feel as strongly as you that her chances are really limited. I think she plays above herself here, but then I still don't know what state of physically her back's going to be in. For instance, she looked fine today, but she looked fine at Queen's, and then she was having treatments, and having to have attention, and so you just don't know.
Yeah, I'm gutted for her that she's not in a different section of the draw, honestly, because I share your views about Emma Raducanu at Wimbledon, how she played today, all of that analysis in a different section of the draw. I'd be so high on her, but I think she's relying on Sabalenka having a serious off day, which can happen and has been happening, but the weight of shot issue just feels like an immovable barrier for Emma Raducanu at the moment. Like recent history, we've got enough data points of those sorts of matches now, and I think it's something that can be worked on. I already think she looks physically stronger than she did 12 months ago. I think I can see that difference. She looks more robust. She looks kind of like she has more power through the legs to me. Like, that's not necessarily something that can't improve, but right at this moment there just is such a gap. But I'd love to see that be competitive. I'd love to.
And it's quite an interesting environment to see Sabalenka in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, coming
absolutely.
up against the home favourite off the back of all the fallout from the French Open, really. And look, I think Raducanu is, not Coco Gauff, and probably not quite as able as Gauff was to fully disrupt Sabalenka in the way that Gauff did. But I think she probably can a bit, and with the crowd, like that to me is an element of this match. I don't know if it's the decisive element, but it's part of it. I tend to think Sabalenka, still only in the third round, she's not quite as sort of in that sort of pressure cooker environment as she is at the latter stages of tournaments, where sometimes she comes unstuck. I think I think Raducanu will have moments and Sabalenka will find her level and just be too good. You know, we do see her do that. She's got a gear that, you know, most players in the world can't really live with. But I'm fascinated by that part of the match too. I think
she served really well today, didn't she, Raducanu as well? That's huge for it.
She'll need that.
72% first serves. She'll need something like that in a couple of days' time. That'll be Friday evening, you would think, UK time. Like, good vibe.
Yeah, and on the other side, you know, she's such a good returner, Raducanu. The way she leans on the ball on the backhand side. I love the Raducanu backhand. It's been on the list. And Sabalenka's serve can still sometimes be a little shaky. So, yeah, that's an interesting battleground as well.
Today, a lesson learned for me. I broke the golden predictions rule.
I
went near Marketa Vondrousova.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Do you remember you almost did it in Paris
Yeah,
and I talked you out of it like a good friend?
You did, and I didn't do that.
No.
Good tactics, Matt.
Yeah, I tell you what, the predictions competition has our daily newsletter predictions competition has potentially been more wild than actual Wimbledon 2025. Somebody took a lead on day one that was more points than won the whole competition at the French Open. Wild things are happening at Wimbledon 2025.
Yeah, shout out Sophie Smith. We love Sophie. And she's only made 2 predictions so far. She missed one due to a withdrawal situation.
Well, she didn't need that.
And she's got both of them right. She's on 250 points.
It's
190 something won the French Open.
It's outrageous.
Wild.
I started the tournament with an incredible prediction, one of my best ever moments, and I got so eclipsed.
I'm going to have to start going for Hail Mary.
It's been lost in the shuffle. If you want to keep up with that and all the other hoo-ha that we have going on, Matt's stat incredible every day, then subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. The link is in the show notes. We'll get the link on YouTube as well. Highly recommend that you do that. Sabalenka, incidentally, today she beat Marie Buzkova in 2 sets. The first one was tight though. Marie Buzkova served for that opening set, David.
Yeah, and that's a couple of sets now that Sabalenka's played close, because she had one in the first round as well, the second set of that. But she still looks, well, she's a champion. You know, she comes up with the goods when she needs it. I still feel as though she's not quite where she will want to be if she's going to win this thing. And I am so interested to see whether Raducanu and the crowd can slightly destabilise her. I still wonder whether she's going to feel inhibited or a little bit anxious in that sort of environment. But yeah, she's comfortable enough. Buzkova is good though. You know, she pushed her close in that one set.
Yeah, it's a great point about Sabalenka and that matchup in a couple of days' time, and what you say about Raducanu and how she elevates hugely here at Wimbledon. I mean, she elevates on grass in general because it suits her game, but she particularly elevates here at Wimbledon, and I feel like the brilliance of that and the fact that shouldn't be taken for granted or taken as a given is kind of illustrated by what happened to Katy Boulter today, and what has happened to Katy Boulter a lot here, because goodness me, she lost to Solana Sierra 6-7, 6-2, 6-1, the world number 101. She's a lucky loser, 21-year-old from Argentina. Lost to Talia Gibson in the final round of qualies. I mean, she played an incredible match today. Like the story that's missing from all these upsets is how great the depth is in the sport. Like you've got to be on it to win, and people like Solana Sierra are absolute examples of that. And yet that is only half the story. Katy Boulter was extremely poor today. She was. That is the size of it. She kind of oscillated between putting the tennis player kind of management speak spin on it in press, and also just admitting how completely gutted she is and how much soul searching she now has to do after it. But the fact is she doesn't rise to these occasions here at Wimbledon, and she's so desperate to, and she just can't. And some players just can't. It's not a given. It's extremely hard to do.
And the thing is, you actually drew attention to it in the show after she beat Paula Badosa and compared it to when she beat Karolina Pliskova and then came out against Harmony Tan and was really poor that day. Harmony Tan was good, but Katie was terrible by her standards. And today she sort of fought through that first set, and when she won it on a tie break, she sort of punched the air in it like she just scored a goal. And I wonder whether that would sort of lift the shackles really, and because she played well in the previous round against Badosa, and I wonder whether the common thread here is the difference in expectation based on who you're playing. No pressure against Pliskova and Badosa, players that are top 10 in the world, and she just goes out and she's hitting freely. We saw it against Harriet Dart last year, one of the worst matches I've seen at Wimbledon, and really things were opening up nicely for Boulter if she'd have won that. She's a better player than Harriet Dart, and she lost that match. Things, when you looked at this draw today, she would have been playing against Kristina Buxa in the next round, not Donna Vekic. We'll come on to that. That's I'm not trying to disrespect Buxa, but on paper that's a great draw to reach your first last 16, and she just couldn't get it together today. I feel terribly sorry for her. It must be awful.
Yeah, and look, she's got plenty of years left in the game if she wants them, but she's not 21.
No.
There is a finite number of Wimbledons for her, and she'll be aware of that, and that's one gone. And that's just a tough pill to swallow. That's the brutality of the sport, and I feel like the same will be true of Donna Vekic. She's a couple of years older than Katy Boulter. Again, has many years left if she wants them, but these prime years, they're fleeting and finite, and you don't know when they're going to go. And 6-1, 6-3 today against Kristina Buxa, who was excellent. And you have to beat Kristina Buxa. She's extremely solid. She doesn't miss. And for a player like Vekic, low on confidence, low on form. I mean, frankly, it's been a horrible year, really, hasn't it? She's the playmaker, and she was missing more than she was making. And Buxa's not really missing anything. And it was a bit sad out there today.
I mean, I think it does show how hard it is to do it every year. We've talked about Palini. We'll always remember the Vekic-Palini match from last year here, and both of them having these wonderful years. And you finish the year and you go into the off-season and think, right, let's knuckle down, I'm going to be even better next year. And it isn't always like that. There's only a handful of players that are able to just do this year after year, and I think that the fall is really hard to take. And you're right about Vekic. I mean, she had a couple of good wins in Australia, didn't she? We were courtside for a couple of those. She had one or two in the Sunshine Double, I think. But apart from that, I mean,
when Pam was there,
yes,
in Indian Wells,
yeah. And honestly, apart from that, it's been awful, and she's going to need to do a lot of thinking, I would have thought.
I think her ranking takes a big hit now as well.
Yeah, she stops being seeded for stuff, and then it becomes a vicious circle. Get yourself a Jam Shriver, Donna.
Had one.
Indeed. So Boulter Vekic has become Sierra Buxa, which is very Wimbledon 2025, isn't it? We had a win today, very convincing one for Madison Keys against the Serbian Olga Danilovic, 6-4, 6-2. Matt, I think you watched all of this match. I joined you for a lot of this out on court too. Keys obviously fighting through a real nail biter in round one. I thought she was really good today, Madison Keys.
I did too, yeah. This was not the match I was expecting. I thought this could be a battle. There was a lot going on. The start of play was delayed a couple of hours from some very British drizzle that just sort of delayed everything for such a long time. It was frustrating.
We've become Melbourne, haven't we? All the weather
Yes.
in one tournament. The full spectrum.
Yeah.
4
It's actually
seasons
quite
in a
cold
day.
now, isn't
I'm wearing 2 jackets.
Catherine will have her gloves on tomorrow. You watch.
And so I think people were just ready for for tennis to happen when it finally did happen. And I chose this match over some others because I really did think it could be intense and good and hard fought, and it wasn't really. And I think part of that was Olga Danilovic not playing that well. I wasn't that impressed with her in this match. But I thought Keys was excellent. Maybe at the start she didn't quite have her serve. That was quite a vulnerable shot for her in the early stages. I think maybe she didn't quite have the balance right between, going for it, but also making sure she was reining it in when she needed to. But she absolutely caught fire with the forehand down the line. It was a key shot for her at key moments. She also used her backhand slice quite nicely, I thought, just to stay in some rallies and just to put the ball in slightly awkward spots for Danilovic, just to buy herself a bit of time in rallies. She didn't need to go for everything all the time because often Danilovic was missing herself, to be honest. Not the match I was expecting, but Keys was impressive, and off the back of that ordeal that she had against Russo in the first round, I think just the sort of match that she needed. And I don't know, Keys to me has just totally changed. Like, she was always interesting because of the potential, like what she might do, but to me she's now become so much more of a must watch because she has done it.
Absolutely.
And like the possibility that she could do it again, I've seen it. Can we see it again? That to me has changed the Madison Keys experience, and I am now going out of my way to watch her play. I'm all in.
Is there an argument to be made that Madison Keys is the favourite for this tournament at this point? You think without injury she would have won it last year, Matt? And now she's a slam champion that you're going out of your way to watch.
But Sabalenka wasn't in the draw last year.
Okay.
I would still have to go.
I have to go Sabalenka.
Second favourite behind Sabalenka?
Third after Anisimova. No. Look, to be honest, I put her up there at the start of the tournament, really. In the mix, in the top, 4 or 5 names to win it. To me, not much has changed really there. Even though
Except a lot of those 4 or 5 names have gone.
No, they haven't. Sabalenka, Raducanu is still there. Keys is still
Is she ahead of Swiatek, Keys?
Probably, but she's in the tougher bit of the draw because she could meet Sabalenka in the quarterfinals.
Okay.
That's the problem, I think. But she beat Sabalenka in Australia, so you could make that case that and she very much could have beaten her at the US Open. Her power causes Sabalenka problems. We've seen enough evidence of that. If Keys is playing well, she can rock even Sabalenka.
These are the interesting things about the matchups, because Danilovic likes to use her power, but whenever she comes up against one of these players, she just looks like she's in another weight category.
There were so many moments where she just couldn't handle the Keys pace.
And that's what will be interesting with Raducanu. Historically, she's not been able to assert power because she's getting hurt herself so much.
I guess what I would say is she's right up there as one of the favourites, but I did think she was pre-tournament as well, and I'm not quite ready to make her the favourite ahead of Sabalenka because of Sabalenka's incredible consistency. Really, there's still a part of me that goes into a Keys match thinking this could be an error fest. We're seeing it far less, but it just feels like it's there. Whereas with Sabalenka, the circumstances seem to have to be very specific to really throw her off her game. She's so consistent at the slams.
Okay, incidentally, Carol R, who I think is Carol Ray. Hello, Carol. We love Carol. Has just said in the live chat, and hello everybody that's in the live chat. Can't find Catherine's sweatshirt in the online shop. Sad face. It is there, Carol. I will send you a link. And if it's not there, it's because it's
Not everyone gets that personal
If it's not
service.
there, it's because it's sold out because of my modelling, obviously. Yeah,
Exactly.
which is also great. Okay.
I've got a cardigan.
It's
nice,
lovely.
Carol's not making inquiries after that, but it is lovely.
You can get this too if you like. It's nice. It's very comfy.
And I've got 2 jackets on.
You could unzip one and reveal
No,
the
too cold.
Right, on to the men's, and obviously there's Carlos Alcaraz to talk about. There's an incredible Joel Fonseca match to talk about. There's Taylor Fritz to talk about. That's just kept us entertained on the hill up until about 45 minutes ago. But let's start with the one big upset on the men's side today, because upsets are very much the theme of this tournament. Cameron Norrie defeating Francis Tiafoe 4-6, 6-4, 6-3, 7-5. There was a real turning point in this match, wasn't there, late on in the second set when Tiafoe had a set-to-love lead, love 40 on the Norrie serve. But Cameron Norrie, I'm going to go to Matt Roberts for an answer on this, David, because big announcement, Matt Roberts is now a Cameron Norrie guy.
I was today. I have to say, in that 4th set, I got really into this match and I got really into the Cameron Norrie of it all. I think it was when I clocked and realised that he's such a court 1 specialist. You know, I looked up his record and he's beaten on that court now Tiafoe, Draper, Mahach, Munar, Paul, Goffin, Bolt. I think he's only ever lost 1 match on there to Christopher Eubanks. He's got a really, really good record on court 1. And
he keeps talking about it. He keeps campaigning to get back out there.
Right.
He's doing a Kyrgios, Hisense, John Cain
He
thing.
really is. He's very open about it.
I think that's quite smart.
My favourite court.
Right.
Please put me on there.
And he just, I guess there was just part of me in that 4th set that was kind of like, I've seen this Cameron Norrie before on this court. He just had a sort of look in his eye. He was just so engaged and locked into the match, sort of fist bumping after every point that he would win, coming up with shots and winners with sort of surprising amounts of flair for Cameron Norrie.
I know, I heard the noises you were making after he hit them, Matt. I was sitting next to you. It was wild.
Yeah, it was. I thought he was, I'm going to say it, I thought it was quite fun. And he had the break in the 4th set. Tiafoe immediately broke back, and that could have been another turning point, but he recovered and he was outplaying him. And look, I don't think this would have happened a couple of months ago. I think he has found a bit of form again recently, Cameron Norrie. And Tiafoe, he hasn't been that impressive all year, really. He had that, decent run at the French Open. But he lost to Dan Evans, didn't he, on the grass in the lead up to Wimbledon. And look, Dan Evans is very comfortable on grass. He's a good player. It's not a bad loss. But I imagine Cameron Norrie kind of thinks, well, Evans can do it. I can do it. Like in this tournament where all the seeds are falling, why can't I take one out as well? And on his favourite court, he just rose to the occasion, and he was good today.
Tiafoe, though, is another clown for the list, isn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't really see this coming when I was watching the first couple of sets. It was close, it was good, but I thought Tiafoe seemed right on it, and I was expecting him to win this match. I don't think it's that big an upset, really. It does, on paper, when I look at the two, I don't think Tiafoe's got enough form, even though his ranking's higher, to feel that it's that big an upset. But at the same time, the way he played that first set, I'm thinking, oh, Tiafoe looks like he could be one of the ones to maybe pick up the pieces of this draw, and he should be pretty gutted, I would have thought, not to.
Yeah, because it's not Yuri Lehechka waiting in the next round. He was one of the seeds to fall in straight sets to Mattia Bellucci. That's a miss for Lehechka, big time. Although Bellucci is fun and talented.
Yeah, curious to see him on grass, actually, because he's got a game full of flair himself. But
I suspect, David, that'll be on court 1, Norrie against Bellucci. So
that actually could be a lot of fun. More fuel for the Matt Roberts fun fire with Cameron.
Is that
Norrie.
what we're calling it?
Yeah.
The Matt Roberts Fun Fire with Cameron Norrie.
Yes.
I'll decline that invitation.
It's a one-time thing.
Well, we'll see, won't we? Watch this space.
Two lefties up against each other there, which is, always
Lefties
kind of an interesting
don't
matchup.
like playing other lefties. It's
Not
like when
even
David
mind.
meets other tall people.
Yeah. Don't like that.
I think, but I have to say, Lehechka, like we were massively talking him up at Queen's.
Yeah.
And I know that's that's partly on us, but look, a lot of maybe what we said at Queen's hasn't materialised. Alcaraz was a serve bot at Queen's, and
All the lead-up tournaments have been pointless, haven't they?
what was happening over the last 3 weeks?
Should we just go straight into Wimbledon the day after Roland Garros? Cut the hoo-ha. Right, let's talk about Carlos Alcaraz, shall we? Straight sets today. Relative lack of hoo-ha for the two-time defending champion. 6-1, 6-4, 6-4 against the Brit Oliver Tarvet, Ollie. As we now know him fondly. Didn't know he existed a week ago, but he's Ollie to everybody now. Who, look, it was a classic plucky Brit performance, wasn't it? Right in the sweet spot. Won over a lot of fans. He'll get a lot of headlines tomorrow, even though he lost this in straight sets. It was all just absolutely classic, and Alcaraz handled all that incredibly well, didn't he? Said lots of nice
I love
things
his
about
game. He said his first words in his on-court interview.
Yeah.
But actually, you know what? I commentated on it. There's a lot to love. He had 3 break points in the first game of the match, but that aside from that, just the way he carries himself and plays the sport. I mean, he was trying to play like Alcaraz on the court. Where we are in our court level commentary box in the corner of the court, looking over the sort of left shoulder of the player who's nearest to you, Tarvet was trying to hold the baseline and he refused to yield it. He was doing the sort of full front face on slide Djokovic style and Alcaraz style and Sinner style into each corner, like he's skiing, like he's slalom skiing, and he was really ripping the ball. He was trying for drop shot exchanges. The first set was 44 minutes, and yet he lost it 6-1. Every game was competitive. And he's so fast. I mean, there were a couple of drop shots that Alcaraz hit, and he... Honestly, you're thinking, well, hold on, which one's which here? The speed he's going across the court. Never once did his focus dip or his intensity drop. I found it all very impressive. I mean, look, the guy is 733 in the world. He's never played a tour match. It was hilarious looking at their bios next to one another. Alcaraz is just full of numbers, and then Tarvet's just said 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 in the career record, and he'd never played anything. He never even played a tie break, and suddenly here he is on centre court. I thought he handled himself really well. I thought this was a much better Alcaraz than we saw against Fonseca the other day. It wasn't anywhere near perfect. He's going to need to really fine-tune his game if he's going to win this title. But then that's what he's done the last 2 years. He's built his way in.
And fine-tune his serve in particular, because it's been a regression, these opening 2 rounds of Wimbledon, big time. And he is well aware of it. He mentioned it unsolicited in his press conference, and then it was picked up on by Charlie Eccleshare from The Athletic, who I know is writing a piece on serve bots. And he put a question
That'll pull the readers in.
He put a question to Alcaraz about serve bots, which Alcaraz really enjoyed. Actually, he's into the whole being a serve bot, slightly ironically bit. He really engaged with it. But then I sort of killed the fun and chimed in with a serious question about serving, and I said, look, you didn't start off serving well at Queen's at all, and after the Munar match, you decided this has to stop, and you've told us that you hit the practice court and did pretty much exclusively service drills, and were like, I've got to sort this out. And from that point onwards, he was a serve machine, wasn't he? Started breaking his records for aces in matches, and it wasn't just the numbers that that stacked up. In terms of the eye test, you could see there was greater precision on that serve, and I feel like that's what's been missing these opening couple of rounds, because actually the numbers stacked up pretty well today. The numbers were low in the first serve percentage, but it climbed over the course of the match, and it ended up in the mid 60s, maybe even late 60%. It's like that's fine, but in terms of the eye test, it wasn't anywhere near where it was at Queen's, and I asked him about that, and he said, yeah, I'll be doing what I did after the Munar match. That is my priority. The serve is the most important shot on grass. That's what I'll be doing.
And that's encouraging, I suppose, that he's got very recent evidence that he can find the serve halfway through a tournament. But it really has been notable, through 2 rounds here. Fonini and Tarvet just have had so many looks at Alcaraz service games. David mentioned that long first set today. I didn't watch this match as closely as you two, but Tarvet, I think, had 8 break points in the first set against Alcaraz.
And he did break him a couple of times in the next 2 sets.
Yeah, and that's the reason that first set took so long, really, is because Alcaraz constantly was under stress and under pressure on his service games. And yeah, I think that's a big area that he will need to improve this tournament. But given what we saw last year at Wimbledon, when suddenly found his serve in the final against Djokovic when he needed it most, given what we saw at Queen's and how he started breaking his own ace records, one match after another there, we know that he can find it, so there's no need to panic. But absolutely he needs to improve in that area.
Well, the good news for him is that his next round opponent is going to have to play tomorrow. It's either Felix Auger-Aliassime or Jan Nudstrup. They split sets and were called off for bad light. They were on court 18 behind us here. The crowd were booing when they called it off for bad light. It was a classic Wimbledon scene. So they could have a lot of tennis still to play tomorrow, which isn't ideal preparation for playing Carlos Alcaraz.
No, absolutely. And I think they definitely could have played for longer here. I think it was about 8:45 or something that they called this one, and I think playing on the outside courts they played for another 40 minutes or so they could have got quite a lot more in, but they called it a 1-set-all. I imagine, look, I don't know, but I'm speculating here, but I imagine, based on what Taylor Fritz told us about the conversation that took place, and in terms of both players needing to agree to it, I imagine Auger-Aliassime was thinking, let's get off here. He was 6-3 up in that second set tie break and ended up losing it. So I think he just probably needed a reset and come back the next day. Yeah,
there's a couple of other matches suspended overnight tonight, aren't there? There's Artur Rinderknecht and Christian Garin. That's been called off, with Rinderknecht leading 2-1. Credible Rinderknecht continues. It's a real adjustment in my mind. I'm getting there. And Alejandro Davidovich Fokina and Bertik van der Zandschulp called off, with Davidovich Fokina leading also 2-1 and 5-all in the 5th. So Bertik's got him right where he wants him. I do hope Bertik stays in long enough for me to hear John McEnroe say his name again. That has been my highlight of today. Look, it's a tough pronunciation. Not everybody has my flair.
It's Cameron Matthews' favourite
highlight of the tournament.
Highlight. It's going to take some beating. Van der Zandschulp.
Van der Zandschulp. Yeah. Yeah.
I loved it so much. Look, they're long days. It was late at night.
Yeah. Look, the
Dutch is tough.
The umpire, when he was beating Alcaraz, was saying Van der Schlap the whole night.
Stick to Baltic.
Right. Bertik will be back tomorrow. Let's talk about Joel Fonseca and Jenson Brooksby. This is my favourite match of the day. I loved this match. Unfortunately, I got turned away from watching it in person.
We were in the queue.
I was turned away. We were turned away by a member of the British Armed Forces.
Yep.
Which felt like a very final no. Court 12 is full. I pivoted to Madison Keys with Matt on court 2. But the unfortunate thing about that situation is that you could hear court 12. And the Brazilians, David, found a way in, and there was a vibe.
Because they were sitting in their seats during a rain delay. That was the level of commitment that was required to get to this match.
I had such FOMO.
I mean, it was a tough scene. So 2 days ago, I was at the first round match against Jacob Fernley on court number 1, where I counted two obviously Brazilian fans who had got either a yellow shirt on or were waving a flag. That's it. There was no vibe in there at all. This was a totally different scene. And after Catherine went off to watch Keys with you, I tried to get into court number 1 for a little bit and realised I hadn't got the wristband, so I failed twice, and then went back to the media centre and watched 6 screens, and then realised that Fonseca had got the best crowd in the world in the stadium he was in. So I was earphones in, listening along, getting into it, doing the chant.
João Fonseca.
You've got to get the Brazilians in.
Oh yeah.
You've just got to find a way to get them in. They are
transforming
so great.
Tennis. Genuinely, I guess go looking for his matches now. Even when I'm at home watching tournaments around the world, I'm like, where's Fonseca playing and what's the atmosphere like?
He really dials into it. There was a moment where they're going and then he just starts to do this in time with them, as he's walking around, and I'm thinking, crikey, he's got them in the palm of his hand.
And Brooksby kind of responded to it in a really great way. He didn't get eggy, but he did.
Very funny at the end of the second. So when he levels the set, he's taking all this stuff and he's playing some nice stuff and it's disruptive tennis. And then Fonseca hits a big forehand and it's going long, and Brooksby goes like this to allow the ball to go over the baseline. Shepherds it out.
In a very theatrical way.
Very theatrically, and the crowd kind of slightly playfully booed him. But he sat down with one set all. But no, he's a good watch too. But it's cool having Fonseca in the third round of Wimbledon.
It is, and unfortunately, because of the seed decimation, I think they're going to have to put Fonseca on a big court. But I want him on court 12. I want the Brazilians to get in.
Yeah.
If they have to put on a big court, somebody sort the Brazilians out.
Imagine if he was
and
down
the Chileans.
Let's have him.
We're coming to that
court 18. That'd be good.
Yeah, but I don't know. Going through the matches that there are going to be in that side of the draw, I think they're going to find it hard not to put Fonseca on a big court. But just find a way to get Brazil in somehow, wherever it is. Quote his. I can't remember who he's playing, but the next match is winnable. That is what Matt Roberts said when revealing his true thoughts about Nicholas Jarry accidentally earlier. Explain yourself, Matt.
Jarry's on fire.
I was trying to remember his draw off the top of my head, and I thought he was playing the winner of Borges Harris. Turns out I was wrong, and he's playing the winner of Jarry Tien.
Which was very much Nicholas Jarry. 2-2 and 3.
Nicholas Jarry just swatted Tien aside.
He's unstoppable.
Is Jarry the favourite in that match, do you think?
I thought you meant for the title.
I thought you were going to say for the title.
Imagine. I kind of think he might be the favourite against Fonseca.
What makes you say that?
The big serve, the relentlessness of it.
The ability to kind of rush Fonseca.
Fonseca does have... I mean, look, he has these peaks where he's unplayable for most people. But I just think... best of 5 set. He's going to keep plodding along the way he does, Nicholas Jarry. You know what I mean?
You're making it sound like another Matt Roberts fun fire, or whatever we described the Cam Norrie party as.
I think what impressed me today with Fonseca, again, I didn't see every ball, but felt like he was quite happy to sort of rally with Brooksby. I felt like his tolerance was good. Like he wasn't just hitting out.
That is impressive, because that could have gone, couldn't it?
It could.
There were lots of moments where that could have gone today.
I thought it was really good today, Fonseca. But then so was Jarry. It's a tough one to call, isn't it? It's a very fun third round match, especially knowing that if they can get the atmosphere right, that could be really special. Because Jarry doesn't have quite the support that Fonseca has. He's certainly not bringing along a lot of the neutrals in a way that Fonseca is. But there's always Chilean fans at his matches, always, and they create a vibe. So yeah, I'm very into this match.
I'm still remembering Jarry against Mute in Chile earlier this year. That was one of my favourite matches of the year.
And then wasn't there a continued? Didn't they play again at Roland Garros?
So they played at Roland Garros last year.
And something wild happened with the ball kid.
Yes,
right. There were scenes.
Jarry ran into a ball kid or something. Yeah.
Oh, that was it.
He got sort of stitched up as being a bad guy for running into a ball, but it really wasn't his fault.
You had to do a lot of Jarry apologies. Yeah, Mute's still in the tournament, incidentally. He won yesterday, as is Taylor Fritz. Just 6-3 in the fifth. Finished about an hour ago over Gabriel Diallo, who is, well, it's your classic won over a lot of fans, isn't it? On number one court tonight. What a show he put on with his neon hair and his swashbuckling tennis and his incredible attitude. Really, Pat Cash in his box. Diallo, he was great tonight, and yet. Obviously, it's very easy to say now. I had utter confidence in Taylor Fritz the whole way through. Like, okay, on one hand, it's not ideal for him to be getting embroiled in these pickles early on, and yet he's just got this look in his eye that's like, I'm relishing this. Yeah,
he's a real fighter, Taylor Fritz. And I actually think a lot of players, I mean, it's 2 back-to-back 5-set matches, not ideal, yet I don't think it's going to cost him the physicality. I don't think he could afford another one necessarily, but I kind of feel like he's probably going to knuckle down now and become his best self.
Yeah, I think physically they've not been particularly grueling matches because he's been playing big servers. The rallies have generally been quite short. There's not been that much demand on him physically, but something he did say was that he actually would have preferred to play really late and not have a curfew when he beat Pesci Pericard, not because of the physical recovery but because of the mental toll that it exacts on you to just be on for that amount of time. You go to bed tied at 2 sets all, you've got to be on the next day, and then you come back again, he's on again today. It's just been locked in this whole tournament, and I think that can be a bit draining, a little bit tiring, and that would be my only concern really for Fritz, whether that element catches up with him, that sort of mental fatigue that can come from those sorts of wins. Physically, I do think he'll be okay. We've finally got an order of play tomorrow that he's not on. He's
unlike his potential next opponent, Bertik van der Zandschulp,
right,
who will have played every day of the tournament so far.
Right. So I think physically he's okay, but generally, like, Fritz to me feels like one of the biggest beneficiaries of all the sort of seed decimation and draw decimation that there's been. I mean, arguably he was the favourite in his section anyway, given the record that he has over Alexander Zverev. But just sort of other names there have lost, like Medvedev, for example, and suddenly it's an incredible draw that he's got to reach the semis here. Like, incredible. And if he can just keep it together, he's by far the best player in that section. And I really think he should be getting to the semis here, and it kind of, that draw that he's got feels a bit like a reward for that tricky first couple of matches that he's had against big servers, informed players. Diallo, love his commitment to coming forward. I can see why Pat Cash is in his box and working with him. Like, he just is desperate to come forward whenever he can, Diallo, and that's an unusual look for a player to have to face. Fritz won't be used to that, but Yeah, I just feel like Fritz can breathe a bit tomorrow and just get his head around this draw, which is great for him. And I'd probably, given how convinced I've been by him, as you said today, I do think he's going to get to the semis here.
I do too.
Back-to-back matches against players of 6'8".
It's wild, isn't it?
You're next, David.
Come on, Taylor. Let's have it.
Is Riley Opelka still in? No.
Yes, he
Yes,
plays Nakashima tomorrow.
Oh, crikey.
Mm.
I don't think an army employee will be turning me away from whatever court that's on. Come on in. We need bums on seats. I could be wrong.
We're not going to be doing in-depth analysis of that one, are we, tomorrow?
We don't know how desperate the draw's going to get,
Should we see if
Matt.
we can get on the seats? Should we try and just report
No.
back?
I've got other things on, David.
Okay.
A few people imploring us in the chat earlier, and this was in the agenda. There's just been so much to get through that I accidentally overlooked it. Naomi Osaka sneakily through to the third round. That equals her best ever run at Wimbledon, which I know is, potentially not saying all that much, but she's got Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova the next round, who took out 31st seed Aisling Kruger, and after that it'd be Sonny Cartel, who got a fantastic win, backed up her first round victory over Elena Ostapenko, beat Victoria Tomova today 2-2. She's now got Diane Parry in the next round. So Osaka, who beat Siniakova 3-2 today, plays Pavlyuchenkova. Not a given. Pavlyuchenkova, obviously Grand Slam finalist, great player, but Pavlyuchenkova round 3 for Cartel or Parry in round 4.
Yeah.
Big opportunity for Osaka.
Yeah, it's that section we were talking about with Anisimova and Galfi and Noskova and Rakimova as well. One of those 8 is reaching the semis, and that would be a first Wimbledon semi-final for all of them. None of them have reached the Wimbledon semis before.
Land of opportunity. Right, tomorrow's order of play. I'm pumped about this. Centre Court opens at 1:30 p.m. David, of course, is going to be commentating on it. Who else but David for Dan Evans against Novak Djokovic?
Oh, yes.
Has he got a chance, David?
No.
Not even a chance?
No, of course he's got a chance.
How big a chance?
Not a very big one, but he's got a chance. He's beaten him before in Monte Carlo. I do think Evans is going to play out of his skin tomorrow. I think he's going to be so pumped up, and I think he knows the tactics to use to at least play well, and it'll look good. There'll be a lot of long rallies, I think, in this match. He'll use his slice a lot to just keep rallies going, and the big question is, how do you win points with that? How do you hurt Djokovic? How do you get him out of his stride? So at some point he's going to have to change that up and go after the forehand and cut off the corners the way he's so good at doing, and probably try to get to the net, but then the guy's so good at passing and all. It's not easy, and he's going to have to serve incredibly well just to kind of keep in the games, keep in the sets rather, keep them close. But I do think he's going to play well. I do, as long as he's fully fit. I think he's in form, Evans.
Iga Świątek against Katie McNally is second on centre tomorrow. And finally, Jannik Sinner against Alexander Vukic of Australia. Number 1 court opens with Mira Andreeva against Lucia Bronzetti. Second on Maria Sakkari against former champion Elena Rybakina. And finally, Jack Draper. I wonder if he's requesting court 1. I wonder. He is up against Marin Cilic. And of course, that win would take him further at Wimbledon than he's ever been before.
I wouldn't have thought Draper is requesting court. That he lost there to Norrie badly last year. That was a pretty unpleasant experience for him.
And they did put Sinner on court 1 in the previous round, and he's the world number 1, so it felt like he probably needed to go on centre
Cilic
today.
is an interesting one, isn't it? Because he's had such a bad time in injury. I really thought his career may well be over, and he's not what he was. But still, here's a guy who's reached 3 Grand Slam finals, and he's won one of them. That's not a given.
Not a given. Court number 2 court opens with Alex de Minaur against Arthur Cazaux. Second on is the completion of Arta Ferry against Luciana
Back-to-back
Darderi.
artists.
Yeah,
They're everywhere.
yeah. Arta's a big name in tennis.
And I'm into all of them.
Yeah, because of your granddad.
Yeah, my granddad was an Arthur. Yeah, absolutely.
Third on court number 2, the defending champion Barbora Krejcikova against Caroline Dollarhide. I'm interested in that. Interested to see if Krejcikova can keep up or build on what she showed in the opening round against Ayala. Fourth on is Sophia Kenin against Jessica Buthas Monero. And finally, Ben Shelton against Rinky Hijikata. That is your court 2 schedule for tomorrow. Court number 3, Veronika Kudermetova against Emma Navarro. Here's one for you, David. Unfortunately, this is going to clash, at least in large part, with Djokovic against Evans, but Grigor Dimitrov against Corentin Moutet.
What time's that on?
A second
While
after
you're
11.
commentating.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not
I'll
good for you.
rearrange.
Yeah, that's. I'll be watching that, and I'll live text it for you.
Okay, good.
Sebastian Offner against Tommy Paul is third on court 3. Daria Kasatkina, big opportunity for her in her section. She takes on Arina Camelia Begu. Jakub Mensik is on court 12. Thomas Mahach and Clara Towson against Anna Kalinskaya. Court 18 behind us here. Flavio Caboli against Jack Pennington Jones. Jack, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack, yeah. Just checking.
It's a very English name.
Yes. And he's good mates with Jack Draper, isn't he? Jack Pennington Jones. The completion of Auger Seaman Struff. Then Susan Lamons against Katerina Alexandrova. Then Ludmila Samsonova against Yulia Starodubtseva. And Martin Fucsovic against Gael Monfils. He only needs one. So that is your tomorrow here at Wimbledon. Of course, we'll be back with a live show at the end of all of it. Maybe a bit earlier tomorrow. No Taylor Fritz on the schedule, so you never know. You never know. We have a mascot for today's show. Matt showed me a sneaky peek of the mascot earlier because he is so lovely. He is Woody, and he is owned by Doug and Andrea. Woody was rescued as a puppy from our local shelter, say Doug and Andrea, in New York's Hudson Valley when he was 6 months old. He will turn 12 in January. He's a shepherd pit hound mix, but really we think he's just made up of leftover parts from other dogs. He loves swimming, playing in the snow, hamburgers and squeaky tennis balls, although he promptly breaks the squeaker, at which point they are dead to him. And Doug and Andrea say, only one photo, Catherine, send us your email and we promise to send you a new Woody photo every day for a month. What a pledge. Yes, I will. I'll take you up on that. That sounds absolutely excellent. Yeah. Oh, what a dog. That's a good dog. I like a heady mix of just... Sometimes when you get a mix of lots of different dogs, you end up with a dog that looks like what you would get in the dictionary if you looked up dog. And that's what Woody looks like. He's lovely. And I look forward to my 30 days of photos of him. Hello to our mascots. Hello Phoebe. Hello Maisie. Hello Roger. Hello to our top folks and executive producers Greg, Chris and Jeff. And Matt, let's have some shout outs, please.
We have Clarissa Troop, who is in our Wimbledon newsletter predictions competition and was here today.
Hi,
How is
Clarissa.
she doing? I mean,
Not as well as Sophie.
No one's ever going to do as well as
ahead of me.
Sophie.
Can't
I
remember.
think most people are ahead of me.
Don't give it away. Subscribe to the newsletter, folks.
Yes.
Clarissa, thank you. You're a big supporter of the pod,
Yeah.
and
Thanks,
we
Clarissa.
appreciate it. And I
Yeah.
don't think I have any tennis Clarissas.
No.
Clarissa explains it all. Big show in my childhood. I'm sure you've heard that before, Clarissa, but there you go. Thank you, Clarissa.
We've also got Adele Ford.
Hello, Adele.
Hi, Del.
Adele found the tennis podcast at the start of lockdown and particularly loves the relived pods.
Aw.
Adele says if we're on a long car journey, they keep us entertained. The deal between my husband and I is that we alternate between relived and World War II podcasts. My husband says he would have liked to have met Vitas Gerulaitis.
Oh, me too.
Sounded like he was a top bloke.
And we've got a relived on Vitas Go Live,
Yeah.
didn't we, last year? That was
Exactly.
a wonderful experience to research all that.
Adele, like Adele.
Yeah,
Hello.
Very good.
Little gag there.
very good.
Again,
Matthew enjoyed that
again,
one.
I'm sure Adele's never heard that before. But I don't think there are any tennis Adeles.
I found myself saying, "I'm the problem, it's me," to you the other day.
Did you?
Yeah. And then I realised I'd quoted a song.
Olivia Rodrigo was here today. Do you know
Yeah.
who that is? We watched her the
I
other
do
night
know
at
who that
Glastonbury.
is. I think
Yeah.
she's really good.
I agree.
There's my
Banger
assessment.
after banger.
Yeah.
Adele, thank you.
She was potentially chatting with Roy Hodgson, which is a fantastic mental image.
But, by the way, did I tell you?
She was chatting with Tommy Fleetwood. That did happen.
Did
I
I
saw
tell you
it.
about how Ollie Tarvet was signing autographs with his full name, like in longhand?
Like it was his signature on a mortgage or something.
You're really going to have to like he's a kid at school writing his name. He's on his exercise book. I'm thinking you've really got to work on that, pal.
That's
You're
very
gonna-
sweet.
It's not very efficient.
Thank you, Adele.
And finally, we have Rishi Khanna.
Oh, hello, Rishi.
Hi, Rishi.
We know Rishi.
Yes, this is Rishi's actual shout out.
Right,
Remember
yes.
Roland Garros?
I do.
I
yeah.
got my Rishis mixed up. But this Rishi from Denver, Colorado. We know Rishi. We've met Rishi. We love Rishi.
We love Rishi. I have a good friend from Denver, Colorado. Good things happen there. They produce good people.
Absolutely.
I'm sure not without exception, but my experience is they produce good people. And Rishi certainly is that.
And Rishi says that his current coach is former WTA number 26, Micah Babel. Is that a name that we know? Apparently not. But yeah, Rishi's getting some quality coaching in. Which,
Like Rishi Prasad, who does the on-court interviews at Wimbledon. I think he was on centre court today.
Yeah.
There you go, Rishi. Rishi, Adele, Clarissa, thank you ever so much for being a friend of the pod. If you'd like to become a friend of the pod and get access to all of those Tennis Relived episodes, all of our many bonus episodes throughout the year Q&As, live shows, Grand Slam review shows, we'll be doing one of those after this Wimbledon. You also get ad-free listening, you get access to the barge, you get all sorts of fun stuff. The link, as always, is in our show notes. Thank you to Wimbledon, who let us sit here, who give us clothes.
It's all right, isn't it?
Thank you, Wimbledon. We love you. Thank you to The Athletic. We are, of course, proudly part of The Athletic Podcast Network, and do check out all of their stuff. We're sitting with Matt Futterman, Charlie Eccleshare this week, and they work so hard. They're writing a lot of stuff. They have a live blog as well. Check it all out. It's excellent stuff. And most importantly, please do hit that like and subscribe button. If you subscribe to our channel, you will be able to get alerts about when we're going live every day. And yeah, it is not before 9:30. That is guaranteed. But the rest depends on Taylor Fritz, apparently.
it's always after Taylor Fritz.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you and speak to you tomorrow.